Well, hello and welcome. I am thrilled and privileged to be sitting here with Mary Meares. Mary's going to tell us all a little bit about herself, but Mary is one of our amazing presenters at the CGL event coming up in Lecce, Italy in June. Not too many months away now. Mary, welcome, and I am so happy to chat with you once again. We met briefly, I believe, back in Santa Fe, and I didn't get a chance to spend too much time with you, but I did get a few moments with you, and I'm so happy to have you here today. Welcome.
Well, it's a delight to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Great to talk with you.
You're connected, of course, very closely with the work that the ICI has done in the past. You know Antimo Cimino very well. Tell me a little bit about the work you do, both maybe the inspiration behind the work and then the current stuff that you're doing with the University of Alabama and how you got into this entire field and why it is such a passion for you.
Well, I grew up interested in different cultures. I grew up in the South, so I was interested in domestic diversity issues, issues of race, issues of gender. From a very young age, I remember looking out of the window on long car trips and being curious about the lives of other people and concerned about how culture interfered a lot of times with our interactions with other folks. And my father was actually a doctor during the Vietnam War, and so he was away for a year when I was in first grade. And so from that very early time, I was conscious of culture in the larger sense and how that
Mm.
influenced conflict and so many other aspects of life. As a undergraduate, I had a chance to work with Fulbright students coming to the US to study, and that really encouraged me to think about this as a potential area for work. I was looking for ways to integrate that fascination with culture and cultural differences in my own life and in my professional life. And I've been very lucky. I've had a chance to do things in the academic world and in the corporate world, but not as much as the academic world, in nonprofits, looking at how culture plays a role sometimes in getting in the way of us working successfully together and sometimes in enhancing the work that we do. The research actually shows us that diverse groups come up with better ideas and more ideas, but they have to learn to work together. So a lot of my work at the university focuses on helping students learn skills that are related to cultural diversity and how to work effectively with other people, and also looking at research on these kinds of issues.
It's funny, you said something that really resonates with me. I come from the private sector. I come from a
Yeah.
mortgage banking background, managing teams of people. One of the accusations that gets thrown at this whole field of multicultural studies, diversity and inclusion, emotional intelligence and leadership is, yeah, these are cute soft skills, but they don't really move the needle. And you spoke to it briefly, and I'd like you maybe to elaborate on a little bit. This isn't just about building a better world and communicating more effectively, although those things are desperately needed in our world. It's also about delivering better results, whether you're a nonprofit, a for-profit, a government agency, because you communicate more effectively, you create better stickiness with your employees, better retention is what I mean by that. Tell me a little bit about the yes, it's quote unquote soft skills, but those soft skills are really, really important, and they do have bottom line results for any organization.
Well, and the challenge with the whole label of soft skills is that for us to be effective in any organization, we need those soft skills. Even if it's a very homogeneous organization, we need to be able to communicate well. We need to be able to be part of a team. And many organizations really recognize this in terms of interviewing and recruiting people to be part of their organizations. But the challenge is when you get a group of people who have had different experiences growing up, even if they're in the same nation state, when you get people who come from different backgrounds, how do we learn to work effectively? Because for any organization to be successful, whether you're an engineer or a banker or an academic, you have to be able to work with other people. And when we don't recognize the role of culture in that, it's easy to kind of get into labeling people as difficult people or not liking to work with a particular group of people. But what learning about culture does is it gives us tools to try and break down and understand some of those differences and to build empathy and curiosity about other people that can, even though those are soft skills, if you're concerned about getting a deal done or working effectively with a group to meet a particular deadline, those things can make or break the success of those interactions.
And the absence of those things, as Brene Brown puts it in one of her books, leads to sorting. and we start sorting ourselves into groups that are exclusive to your group. And you and I are evidence of the success of this because we're overcoming it even as we speak, because I noticed on your resume that you were an associate professor at Washington State University, and I am an avid Husky fan. So we are proving that we can overcome some of these differences. So let's transition a little bit. I mean, your PhD in the field that you work, you have an accomplished academic background, and I have not only witnessed, but I've heard from so many people talk about the way in which you communicate your passion. Let's talk about, we're going to Lecce. We're going to be in southern Italy for 5 days in a beautiful location. Talk a little bit about who you would like to see in the room with you at this conference.
So my workshop is focusing on training and teaching around culture and intercultural kinds of contexts, intercultural kinds of topics. So what we're going to be talking about is relevant for anyone who's in any kind of role doing that work, whether you're doing teaching in an academic setting or a non-academic setting. And a lot of my students are professionals who are coming back to get a master's degree through an online program. So I work a lot with people who are not traditional undergraduate students. What we're going to be doing is talking about how do you assess your learners, whether they're professionals, whether they're students, and not just assessing who they are, but assessing their level of consciousness, their attitudes towards diversity, and then figuring out ways to reach them and help them progress to being more competent, more effective in interacting with others. So part of this is kind of figuring out where to come into that discussion. Sometimes you get people who are not interested in diversity at all. Maybe they've had bad experiences with people from different groups, or they're suspicious. Lots of things can play into that. And so how do you get them to open up to the possibility that the other person who's coming to the table has just as much to give, but maybe different things to give to the process?
Or maybe they attend the conference because their HR department said, you're a manager and you have to have diversity training, so go. We have to have your certificate on file.
Absolutely. So whether you're coming to the conference because you've been assigned to do it, or you're knowing you're needing the skills to do that more effectively, what that's going to do is give you a chance to think, who are my learners? Who are the people I'm going in to do diversity training for? And what are the appropriate ways to talk about these topics with that audience?
Whether it's a formal role for somebody attending your conference, what you're really doing is training the trainer. Because their job is to go back, and whether they literally have a management title or a leadership role, they're still interacting with other humans in their workplace or their organization. So you're giving them the equipment to be more effective in integrating into that environment.
And frankly, some of the folks who I think would benefit from this may not be in an official role that training is part of their title, but they're working, coaching other employees, whether formally or informally. Maybe there's someone in a role who is in a leadership role, a mid-management role, who's working with diverse groups and really needs to bring everybody together. So it's not necessarily designing a workshop in that case, but what kind of intervention is going to help to move people forward so that they can be effective in their workplace, or for people who are working with students in their future workplaces.
Well, so that kind of covers the who is it for, what is it for question that I love to ask. So one of the things I'm always intrigued by, especially for our presenters, is, and this is the scenario I think I communicated to you earlier, you got a group of people who were part of your conference. They were with us in Lecce, enjoying amazing coffee and wonderful food and a tremendous conference, and they're on the plane returning home. What are the takeaways you want these people to kind of bring back with them, not only to feed their own skill set development, souls, whatever, however you want to describe that, but also to be able to share with the people that they rub shoulders with on a regular basis?
Well, I'm sure when we all get there, we're going to have wonderful conversations and we're going to enjoy being together. But the point of being there is really to come back with something that people can implement in their own context. So even though we'll have people from different backgrounds and different audiences that they're going to be working with, my goal is that when you leave, you're going to have at least an outline, at least a direction to develop more of a program, to develop a course if it's something, if it's someone in the academic area. I really want you to come out with something that's useful for you. I've gone to lots of conferences and I enjoy conferences, but the best ones for me are the ones where I feel like I'm on the plane home. Okay, I know what I'm going to do tomorrow when I get to the office. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be planned and you're going to be ready to deliver that
Of course.
training. But on the other hand, that you've got that direction, you've got a clear kind of sense of where you're going, and not feeling like, okay, I'm home now, what do I do with all of this?
Well, and of course, some of those takeaways, at least for me, it would be not direct application skills with my team or my coworkers or my subordinates, the people that work for me, but it would be, I got to be reminded of my blind spots. What were those? I'm going to write down my 3 blind spots that became very aware to me during the course of these conversations we had. And I'm going to make sure whether it's 3x5 note cards on my computer screen or whatever, I'm going to make sure I heighten my awareness of those areas where I need further development just for me personally, so that when I am interacting, I'm more effective in my role as a team member or teammate.
And I love the analogy of that it's a lab, right? We're working
Yeah,
together. We're
it was very
learning
deliberate.
from each other, right? It's not just a lecture. It's not just even a workshop. It's more than that. So absolutely.
And the fact that it's going to be existing, it's going to be done in a very different culture than what many of us are used to being in on a normal basis. So I think that's part of the lab concept as well.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, I could not be more excited to have you part of this presenting group. It's an extraordinary group of presenters. I know you know most, if not all of them, quite well. And you, of course, add to that brilliantly. You've worked with Antimo in the past and with Lori in the past. Maybe share with anybody watching this interview a little bit about what they can expect by participating in an event that's being managed by Antimo and his team.
I certainly have a long history with them and with many of the other presenters who are going to be there this summer. I think what Antimo and Lori bring is a new way of envisioning how we can work together in this endeavor, building on the experiences that we've all had, of course, many of those from the Intercultural Institute and the Summer Institute for Intercultural Communication and the Winter Institute and the Cutter Institute for Intercultural Communication, but looking at ways to kind of go to the next level. How do we make this really a living, learning experience that we can benefit from as a group?
Fantastic. Well, I am very excited. I'm excited to spend some time with you. Like I said, we have so many great presenters. I'm sitting here going, okay, can I spend a day here or half a day here? How am I going to carve out my time? But I'm thrilled to have you a part of this. You bring such a positivity and, of course, wealth of knowledge, but a great positive energy. And I'm looking forward to spending some time with you in Southern Italy in June.
Well, I'm looking forward to it too, and hopefully meeting lots of other fantastic folks from around the world and getting a chance to learn together.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Mary, and thanks for being a part of this little Q&A session. And we look forward to possibly chatting with you again online before the conference in June.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.